This video is going to go through loci and the different constructions that you need to know for the GCSE exam. So first of all, if the question is involving one point, so say for example it says that they want to be within a certain distance of the point, all you need to do is just open your compass out to that distance. So for example, if you want all the points that are within 4 centimetres from that point, then you just open your compass out to 4 centimetres, put your compass on the dot, draw your circle, and anywhere inside of that circle is going to be less than 4 centimetres away. So anywhere in here is less than 4 centimetres away from that point, because obviously if that circle is exactly 4 centimetres, anywhere inside is going to be less than 4, which means likewise anywhere then outside of the circle is going to be more than 4 centimetres. So sometimes you might get questions where you want to find the locus of the points that are the same distance away from this point as this point. So to do that, you could obviously measure the distance and put a dot halfway, but that's only going to give you one of the points that's exactly halfway between them. And there's actually a whole set of points that will be the same distance away from both points, and it should end up being a line that goes through down the middle like this. But you can't just do that by measuring, you're going to have to use a compass to do it to get the marks. So the trick to this is, I've got an awful pencil to it's really blunt. Put the compass on one of the points. What you want to do is just look at the distance between these 2 points and try and open your compass to at least over halfway. So if halfway, say, is about there, you want to go just over that really, so somewhere like that. Only because later on, if you don't open it out quite far enough, it means your arcs later on will not cross, and we want them to cross. So what you're going to do is just draw an arc at the top like this, and then one down the bottom like that. And I'm not going to change the distance of the compass, I'm going to keep it exactly the same and do the same on the other point. So it's really important you don't change the distance on the compass. And then you can see that my arcs are crossing, so I've got one here and one down here. So that's where I need to now join those up, and that's going to make the what we call the perpendicular bisector. So this line, let's see if I've got a pen, here we go. So this line is called the perpendicular bisector, and perpendicular means it's crossing at right angles. So basically if you joined this dot up to this dot with a ruler properly, but it's going to make a right angle now with the perpendicular bisector that we've drawn. Okay, so perpendicular means it's making right angles. The bisector part means it's split that exactly in half. So bisecting it means you've cut it in half. So that line is exactly halfway between these 2 dots. Now say if this dot was called A and this dot was called B, sometimes the question will say shade in the points that are closer to maybe A than to B. So if this line is halfway, then we know anything to the left of it is going to be closer to A. So if they wanted the points that are closer to A, you have to draw in the halfway line using the perpendicular bisector like we've just done, where I drew the arcs and joined them up. And then anything to the left would be closer to A, and likewise if they wanted the points that are closer to B, then that would be on the right hand side. But the next question, or not question, the next thing I'm going to show you is the angle bisector. So this is where you've got 2 lines that are joined together making an angle. So this would be where you draw an angle bisector. Now looking at that, you might think, right, well, we know these kind of questions we have to use a compass. Where on here is the most likely place you're going to put your compass? Well, we've got 2 lines that are joining here, aren't they? So that is going to be the place that you start to put your compass. Now it doesn't matter how big you open the compass to, as long as it's going to cross these 2 lines somewhere. So it wouldn't matter if I did it up here or a little bit smaller like that. It really doesn't matter as long as it's going to cross those 2 lines somewhere. So if I do an arc there and bring it down there as well, the pencil isn't the best, but hopefully you can see that. And now you think, well, where am I going to put my compass next? Well, look, I've got an intersection here now and also here. So those are the points I now need to put the compass next. So I'm going to keep the compass, don't change the distance on it, keep it the same, put it on this one and draw an arc in the middle, and then do the same down here on this one and draw the arc in the middle. Now remember, in the fact it's called an angle bisector, so the bisector bit, like the perpendicular one, means that we're going to be cutting this angle in half. So bisecting means to cut it into half. So if I look at that point there, if I now join it up to here, that's going to then cut that angle in half. And so that would be my angle bisector. So again, quite often in exam questions, it might call this original line AB and this one might be AC. Now, if you wanted the points that are closer to AB than to AC, so if you read this in an exam, you would think, right, well, AB is that line, AC is this line, and so it forms two lines that meet at this point. So you would have to, in the exam, put your compass there, draw your arc, then where they intersect here, put your compass here and draw an arc, put your compass here, draw an arc and join it up to get that angle bisector. So this is your angle bisector, and again the whole point of that is that it's the halfway line, isn't it? So if this is halfway and we want the points that are closer to AB, if this line is halfway, it's going to be anything this side of the line that's closer to AB, and likewise anything down here would be then closer to AC. Right, the next one is drawing a perpendicular line from this point to this line here. So again, rather than worrying too much about a method, I would just look at that and think, right, well, we know that it's going to be a compass question, because quite often it will say use a ruler and compass for this question. If not, we know questions like this you're going to have to use a compass. So where would you put your compass? Well, where's the most obvious place that you would put it? On the dot, isn't it? So let's put it on the dot like that. Any distance, ideally, I suppose if it crosses the line, that's good. So it's going to cross the line there, but I could also go over here, look, and cross the line here. So it's made two intersections. So that's going to be where I put my compass next, on those 2 points. Now if I put it onto this one, I could obviously do a line down here, but that's just going through the dot. I mean, it doesn't hurt, we can do a line through the dot, but I also want to do one up here like this. And now I'm going to do the same on the other intersection that we had. So again, I could do one down here, but that's just going to go through the dot, but if you want to do both you can. And then again, it's going to cross up here. So now you've got to think, right, what can you do now? It's a perpendicular line. If I join this up now to the dot, it's now going to cross at a right angle. So this here forms your right angle. Okay, so this distance here from the point to the line, it's perpendicular, and it's also, it gives you the quickest or the shortest distance from that point to that line. So if you were here and you wanted to get to this, I don't know, say it was a train track, I don't know why you'd be running to a train track, but say if you wanted to get to that line as quickly as possible, that would be the shortest distance to get there, rather than going that way or that way. Right, the final one is where you've got a dot that is on the line, and again they want you to draw a perpendicular line through that point. So again, rather than worrying too much about methods, let's just think, right, well, where are you going to put your compass? We've got a dot, so put your compass on the dot and draw a line. Now you can see that one is just missing the line, isn't it? It's not actually crossing. We'll come back to that in a second. If I do the same on the other side. So because this one didn't cross the line, I'm going to extend the line. So as long as I make sure I'm really careful when I'm doing this, this is absolutely fine. So just extend the line a little bit like that, just so that we can see where it would have crossed. So it's going to cross up there. And now I've got, again, two intersections. So that's going to be where I put my compass. Now, the only thing with this is that if I put my compass here and draw an arc and do the same down here and do the same on this side, they wouldn't cross because the distance is slightly too small. So it's a bit like the perpendicular bisector, but it is that where we have to make sure it's over halfway, otherwise your arcs wouldn't cross. And I think you would realise that anyway if you did that in the exam, that you'd have to make it a bit bigger. So there's that one. There's that one. Let's do the same over here. And then down there, like that. Okay, so now you can see where they've crossed, so you just join them up like that, and it should go through the dot, which it does, and again, that's made a perpendicular angle like that. So the next video is going to go through more kind of problem questions that you quite often get in exams, but those are the constructions that you need to know for the GCSE exam.